Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Honeycomb Digital Investments, the Regulatory Buzz. My name is Baxter Hines. I'm the Chief Investment Officer here at the firm, and I have the pleasure of being accompanied today by Professor Carol Goforth of the University of Arkansas's Law School and the Blockchain Center of Excellence. Welcome, Carol.
Glad to be here.
Well, today is September 20th. We're almost through 3/4 of the year. Can't believe it. And we have just passed what has been lauded as a major milestone for the crypto industry, and especially for the Ethereum network. The merge has occurred, where we have transitioned from a proof of work consensus mechanism to a proof of stake mechanism. And a lot of viewers may say, what does that mean? In short, it goes from being an energy intensive, computationally intensive type of way that determines whether transactions go into the ledger, into a voting based mechanism. And what I often compare this to is now you're basically having almost like a Procter & Gamble shareholder meeting or any corporate shareholder meeting where the votes get counted, but they are weighted by the number of shares that someone has or the group has. And so that's what's happening now, that the number of coins that a computer controls or a person controls will determine how much voting power they have in the Ethereum network. And so that's a monumental type of change. And there have been a lot of items in the news recently that the SEC may be looking at this more as a security. People are wondering how decentralized the Ethereum blockchain is. And so it's just caused a lot of chatter because, again, it is a very big many-year, much-anticipated type of improvement. So, Carol, maybe just talk at a high level what you're seeing from a regulated standpoint and what you think this has in terms of repercussions for the overall industry and Ethereum in particular.
I think that you're absolutely right. This was an incredibly difficult and time-consuming development. It's been coming for years, and I love the explanation that was offered. It was like trying to repair a Boeing 747 full of passengers mid-flight. It's a very, very tricky. You don't want to make a mistake because Ethereum is not only running Ether. You have all these side chains and all these tokens that are dependent on that network. I've also seen the same concerns being expressed that, oh no, this is changing how centralized the exchange is and how centralized the entire Ethereum network is. And that's one of the major considerations that the SEC has articulated. Therefore, this could make Ether much more likely to be a security. And I think that is actually looking at centralization from the wrong perspective. It is true from a certain angle that when you have a relatively small number of these validators, these pools that have a substantial degree of control, they're making the vote, they are validating the blocks, and it's not even in double digits. So it's a small number of validators. That sounds incredibly concentrated, and it absolutely is. It is concentrated for validation. It is not concentrated in the market. And what the SEC really cares about under the Howey investment contract test is how much a person is relying on market forces to determine the price rather than relying on the entrepreneurial or managerial efforts of any particular person. And the pricing here is still much more dependent on not the 7 or 8 or 9 different validators, but the literal hundreds of thousands of individuals, groups, organizations that are trading. It is the market demand and supply that is driving price up and down. It is major traders taking their profits now that the merge has happened. It is folks throwing up their hands and saying, I don't like the way this is going, or conversely saying, yay, I love this switch away from proof of work because I'm so pro-environment, that drove part of the price up in the months prior to the merge. So I think that the idea, oh no, it's more concentrated, is looking at that from the wrong perspective if the issue is it more likely to make the SEC think this is a security? I just don't see this as changing the concentration of ownership and trading, which is what drives the market price. I don't know if that helps or not.
No, I think it does. That makes a lot of sense. I think conceptually people could say, hey, why am I going over to Ethereum? I thought this was a new way of doing business where sort of society as a whole made decisions and we were getting away from centralized entities like banks or centralized exchanges, things like that. And this new merge, the results were, like as you were saying, a few validators are really in control of things. That may make you less likely to want to do a transaction on there, but from what you're saying, it's a different concept in the eyes of the regulators. And I think that's something that the marketplace needs to hear, because this is a complicated type of topic, and it is the way business is going to be done on Ethereum going forward. So it's important that investors know what they're dealing with. That was a great explanation.
I think the SEC has been, I don't think this is a fortunate development, but I think the SEC has been fairly consistent in its approach that most crypto assets are securities under the Howey test. I don't think it has deviated from that. I don't think it wants to deviate from that, and I don't think it's likely to change its view because of a decision to move any particular crypto asset away from proof of work to proof of stake. I do think that from a practical standpoint, proving that is possible and proving the ongoing validity and viability of a proof of stake consensus mechanism in a long-term viable blockchain is a wonderful thing for the crypto ecosystem. I think it is a very positive move because I do think there's an extremely negative environmental consequence to the very computational heavy demands of proof of work when the network gets large, as it has in the case of Bitcoin.
Right, and I think the other thing is not just energy computation. That's obviously very important, but the other thing is it's very difficult to scale and do a massive number of transactions. I think you and I have talked many times about this, where if Walmart's going to put its supply chain on the blockchain, or Louis Vuitton's going to put chips into its bags, into its shoes to prevent any counterfeiting, and all these great types of real use cases. You're talking billions of transactions, potentially an hour or a minute as we go out in time. It can be mind-blowing how many transactions are done. And proof of work just does not seem to have a way to make that happen. And so this is a huge development, and it needs to be seen as legitimate in the eyes of the law. And so I think this is a big day for crypto, and it's allows the blockchain to really show or blockchains and distributed ledger technologies to show if they can meet the potential that a lot of people, me included, are expecting this to have. So this was a great discussion, Carol. I thank you for being here today, and we look forward to seeing you the next time on the Regulatory Buzz.
And I look forward to being here.
See you soon.